Right, let's get Media Watch for you now. James Creedon is here with us in the studio.
Laura.
James, of course, the top story for us tonight is the EU leaders have finally reached an agreement on who should get the top juicy jobs in Brussels.
Well, indeed. So it's been a protracted process. We had live blogs on some of the European news websites, such as Politico.eu. Third day, in fact, that Emmanuel Macron and others had to kind of basically clear their diaries to be in Brussels to deal with this. You had sort of suspense-like tweets from he's the acting head of the European Council until the offices, I suppose, are jigged around, getting closer and closer. These sort of suspenseful tweets.
He was certainly keeping us all updated, wasn't he?
He was. And then we got the names for the people in the top jobs. Now,
and a big surprise, because none of the front runners.
That's right.
That we've been talking about for weeks.
Compromise choices. And I thought this was kind of funny because there was so much speculation about who would get these top jobs that it sort of then turned into this kind of meta, down the rabbit hole kind of thing. Who's going to get the IMF job now that Christine Lagarde, you see, is going to get the European Central Bank gig? And then if you kind of go down into the comments section, people were going, well, what about Ivanka? Maybe Ivanka could get the IMF gig, because you see, will remember as well that the two of them are now tied forever.
Oh yeah. I wonder if she got her business card at that meeting.
Just to sort of play that again because for those who missed that,
vacancy coming up.
This is where she got a very, very bad stare from Christine Lagarde at the G20 summit in Japan. Basically, Ivanka trying to kind of squeeze into a conversation.
Lots of people will be frantically updating their CVs today, won't
That's
they?
right. And I'm kind of
one cushy job to another for Christine Lagarde.
Which again, sir?
She's gone from one cushy job to another.
That's right.
She?
That's right. And some people questioning that.
Once you get to that level.
But others saying that she is competent. Speaking of that viral moment, to kind of just do
you're taking us back.
Doing a quick tangent.
You really want to talk about Ivanka today, okay?
I forgot to mention this yesterday. It was on the Elysée Instagram story, if you like. It was on their story, and it was unintentional. A lot of people wondering, was it sort of
really?
What could it have been? The French
they accidentally leaked
palace?
A video.
Could they have been trolling the Trumps? But I think, to be fair,
I don't think President Trump is going to forgive President Macron anytime soon.
He wouldn't like it. But I think, to be fair, the story function is so unthought through. It's just live videos put up as they happen, that it wasn't an intentional trolling. We didn't anticipate the reaction was their response to that. Now back to Christine Lagarde. In today's news, already her Twitter account updated, nominated as candidate for president of the European
So is Charles
Central Bank.
Michel's Wikipedia page. They really get to this really quickly, don't
Community managers are on top
Prime
of these
Minister
things.
Prime Minister of Belgium.
Very quickly.
Now nominated as the European Council president.
That's it. Now, just to hammer the message home, IMF chief Christine Lagarde, last seen ignoring Ivanka Trump in that weekend video from Osaka, has been nominated for an even more powerful job. I think it's worth making one observation in that regard. These sort of tiny little moments that are picked up by cameras or social media nowadays almost have as much weight in terms of traction in the news as actually big, important pieces of information. Like
visuals have always been important, I think.
That's it, and more now than ever. So there you go. That's just a quick look at
and talking about visuals.
Yes.
I know you want to talk about Ivanka some more. Let's go to the European Parliament, because they had their inaugural session today, and some rather ill-behaved British politicians turned their backs to the national anthem. Well, the supranational.
That's right.
Anthem. What would you say?
You said it, Laura, because
anthem.
it is about the visuals, and this, if they had just sort of expressed in a sort of flat and uninteresting way that the fact what we already know, which is that they're not very much in favour of the European Union, nobody would have said anything. But a big dramatic image like this, turning your back at the moment when the ode to the joy was being played, it's certainly got a lot of reactions, which is what they wanted. And you can imagine the people who support their politics were quite happy at such a gesture, which is what they're looking for as well. But obviously it triggered everybody who dislikes what they represent. I wonder if they would turn their backs when it's payday 2, says one Italian Twitter user. This is an Oxford political professor saying, disgusting, disrespectful, juvenile, how dare they, etc., etc. So a real angry response there. Wait until they find out that even after Brexit, the UK will continue to be one of the 47 member states of the Council of Europe whose official anthem is the Ode to Joy. I'm not sure they're too bothered about that. But what else did we have? There was News Thump. This is obviously satire. It's a little bit like The Onion in the US. Instinctively turning away as Strasbourg waitresses began serving milkshakes.
Because, of course, Nigel Farage
right.
got a milkshake dumped on him.
That's it. don't think that happened in terms of the Parliament.
Oh,
now,
yeah, that's
the
what it
other
says
visual,
on the front of their T-shirt.
Yeah, you're right. It was much ruder on the back.
Tell us what it said on the back.
I'm not sure I can, but it was a swear word beginning with B. A swear word beginning with B. In any case, this was the reaction, if you like, or
It's all getting a bit crude, isn't it?
Well, Brexit politics certainly very present, all too present perhaps, in the EU Parliament today for its first.
Finally,
session.
a cartoonist who drew a clever picture of Donald Trump has been fired in Canada.
That's right. Now, he was working for Brunswick Media. This is the cartoon in question. It showed a sort of a Donald Trump who doesn't care at all playing golf over the bodies of those two dead migrant children. Now, many people thought it, not necessarily
Father
good
and
taste,
daughter,
but the guy got fired. Prizeworthy cartoon of
Who by?
Trump. He got fired by the media in question is called Brunswick Press. They have a number of different newspapers across Canada. The cartoonist, I'll just quickly show you this, he reckons that it's because the former Irving Oil executive who is the premier of New Brunswick, Blaine Higgs, which owns all of these newspapers that were publishing these cartoons, has oil interests and connected to the US, and that his cartoons of Donald Trump weren't being published as a result of that. If you remember, it evokes the concern that if politicians react badly to being caricatured, it could lead to censorship. The New York Times was also, in its international edition, accused of perhaps being uncourageous in scrapping political cartoons out of a fear of upsetting
The New York Times just
Trump.
scrapped all cartoons.
That's right. That's right. Now, we don't have time to go into all of that because some would say they wanted to do it anyway, and this was an easy excuse. But
Bad
fear
times
at the
for
moment.
cartoonists.
That's exactly it. Fear that we could be heading into censorship light.
Thank goodness we have Plan 2
Yes,
in France.
exactly.
Who's fantastic and very talented. All right, James, we have to leave it there. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Laura.